Hello, I'm Christina with Ask a Montessorian, and I am creating this video for you guys today because I keep on mentioning practical life, and some people are saying, well, what is practical life? What does it look like in the home of a 3-year-old? What does it look like in the home of a 7-year-old? So today we're going to talk about practical life in the home of a 3-year-old. And I brought with me my AMI, Association of Montessori International album, so that you guys could get a really good in-depth experience of what practical life looks like, not only in the classroom, but what it could also look like in the comfort of your homes, so that your child, if you do have access to a Montessori classroom, it will only aid in their concentration for you to create a practical life community at home. And if you do not have access to a Montessori classroom, these things will help them be more successful in school as well, because it all gets down to concentration, how long they can hold their concentration and what it is that they're concentrating on. The goal is to aid in their self-construction by providing lots of opportunities for them to concentrate on many different things. So without further ado, here is my Practical Life album from my primary training with AMI. And I wanted to let you know I'm also going to do a video on my theory album. And that will be really fascinating because that gets down to basically the why. Why are we doing this in Montessori? And it's really, really helpful. So some of the lessons that you can do at home. First, let's look at the table of contents. The table of contents comes in several different sections, 7 to be precise. And they include movement, care of the environment, care of the person, dressing frames, grace and courtesy, advanced movement, and geographical extensions, which include land and water forms. So some of the lessons in movement that you can implement at home, and if you're watching this and you're thinking about your classroom, you can also implement these into your classroom, because some teachers are trained online. Some teachers are trained with the American Montessori Society, which is AMS. There are a lot of different trainings out there, and some of the trainings may not have these lessons. So you can also implement these in your classroom as well. So in movement, it also intertwines with grace and courtesy. The children are learning how to control themselves. So we practice standing, we practice walking, we practice sitting, we practice lifting and carrying a chair, we practice carrying a chair. And as I've mentioned in several of my videos before, if you're in a Montessori classroom where they allow observations, more often than not in primary, the children will serve you while you're doing your observation. They will come up to you and practice their grace and courtesy and say, good morning, how are you today? Would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a cup of milk? Would you like a glass of water? Would you like a snack? And then they're going to practice carrying the tray over to you, and it might have a doily with a small bouquet of flowers, along with a snack and a choice of a beverage. It's all an opportunity for the child to interact with you and practice their grace and courtesy in a controlled environment, because the parents are always going to be friendly and helpful. They practice opening and closing a door quietly and gently. They practice sitting in a chair at a table, and when they're carrying the chair or they're moving the chair, they practice setting it down very quietly so that they're not making very much noise. They practice spooning. They can spoon rice. They can spoon beans. They practice sorting objects. They practice pouring solids first and then liquids. They practice folding cloths so that they can help mom and dad fold laundry at home. They practice packing and unpacking a suitcase. In care of the environment, they practice dusting a table, crumbing a tray, polishing metal, washing a table, care of plants, arranging flowers. I did that when I was in Montessori. It was one of my favorite lessons, making beautiful flower arrangements and then decorating the whole classroom with all these little vases everywhere and doilies. And so once a week, you can have your parents bring in a beautiful bouquet of flowers, or if you're creating an environment at home, you can purchase a bouquet of flowers once a week, and your child can choose from the flowers and cut them off at a certain level height and place them in a small vase. The lesson's very detailed. There are lots of steps. However, it's beautiful to watch, and the children absolutely love it. They also do care of plants. We talked about that one already. Care of plants is really detailed too, just like flower arranging. They cut off the dead parts of the plant. They turn the soil, they take cotton balls and they wipe each leaf and they get the dirt off the leaves of the plants. It's really beautiful to watch. They do setting a table, so they know where the silverware goes, where the glass goes, where the plates go. Then the next section we have care of the person. In care of the person, the child learns how to wash their hands. They learn how to, it's not on here. They learn how to blow their nose. It's important for them to look in the mirror and blow their nose. They learn how to prepare vegetables, wash and prepare vegetables. They learn how to slice the vegetables. They learn how to polish shoes, because remember, these lessons are very old, back when we actually did polishing of shoes. However, a lot of these lessons you will still continue to see in the classroom because they have several important steps to build the child's concentration, and they love polishing shoes. They really enjoy the process. And it's an indirect preparation for several of the future lessons that are done throughout the albums in Montessori in different areas of the classroom. They learn how to hang a coat on a hanger. They learn how to put their coat on. That's a fun lesson. So let's say that they have a sweatshirt, right? And it's got a little hood and it's got the sleeves, all that good stuff. You turn the sweatshirt around so that the bottom of the sweatshirt is away from them. You're laying it on the floor and you've got the hood facing the child and the child standing up in front of the sweatshirt. The child takes their arms and puts their arms in the armholes, lifts the sweatshirt up and pulls it over their head so that they don't have to ask you to put their sweatshirt on. I have a video of Greg that I will look for and link below. It's so stinking cute. He put his own jacket on at 18 to 20 months because I showed him that lesson. Then we have the dressing frames. Some of you may have already seen the dressing frames. They're really beautiful. It's a isolation of difficulty. So for instance, you have a wooden frame, and then attached to the wooden frame are two pieces of fabric. And then the two pieces of fabric have buttons, zippers, snaps. Each dressing frame has a different job on it. It has a different opportunity for the child to master a certain type of activity that they would experience if they were getting dressed. For instance, the zipper has the little portion at the bottom because the two pieces of fabric, right, they zip it up. So they have to take the little metal clip and put it inside the little zipper pulley and then take it and zip it up. It's a control of error in the sense that it's in this small frame so that the child can hold it and look at it, and all the different type of the dressing frames. I think there are 6 of them. So you have different types of things that the children would encounter when they're dressing themselves right there on the dressing frames. And they practice doing it over and over again. So when they dress themselves with their clothes, they'll be successful. Snaps, zipper, hook and eye, buckles, bows, like shoelaces. So they're tying bows so they can tie their shoes. Lacing, that's a fun one. So you take a piece of ribbon and we lace the ribbon throughout the holes so that they can lace their shoes or lace a dress. Back in the day, I haven't seen a lace dress in a long time. A lace corset, but yeah. And then they have safety pins. So the children can learn how to attach the safety pin without poking themselves. Section 5, we have grace and courtesy. So the children are learning to greet other people. They're learning to offer them something, give them an offering. They're inviting guests into the home. They're making way for someone to pass. This is so important. And, you know, it seems like in today's day and age that maybe some parents feel that the children learn this as common sense, or maybe they just learn it in their everyday lives, but they don't. There's been so many instances where children have not made way for me to pass and they just push through because they're so full of energy and they're so, you know, when they're young, they're very much involved in themselves, right? They're focusing on themselves, not other people. So you teach them, wait for someone to pass, make way for someone to pass. And the idea that they can have that opportunity to make way for someone to pass, the joy that they see on that person's face when they go to the trouble of making room for that person to come through a crowd, or if you're standing against a wall and you help make way for them to pass through a certain area, the child feels that joy that comes from the person who's very impressed that a 3 or 4-year-old can make way for someone to pass, and shows that level of gratitude and hospitality and humility. It's so beautiful to watch. So it is important. These lessons are very important to give to your children. Then we have saying please and thank you. That's more common. Interrupting. I'm going to tell you about this one because it's unusual, but it works. It works very well. So unusual in the sense that I don't see children doing it, using it. Sometimes, like saying please and thank you. Yeah, that's commonly done, you know. But this example for interrupting, I've often seen children say, excuse me. So what you do is you lay your hand on yourself. You lay your hand on your child and you're improvising, or you're having 2 older children come and show your child how to improvise, interrupting. You show your child, I'm going to lay my hand on your arm while you're talking to someone else, and then that person is going to acknowledge them by maybe looking at them, but continuing their conversation. The child just gently touches their arm, takes their arm away, and then waits, takes their hand off their arm and waits until they give them their attention so that they can say what they have to say. In this way, they're not making any noise. They're not, interrupting the conversation that the other person's having. So the other person doesn't even have to stop talking. They can just look at them and say, I acknowledge you with a glance. And they can touch their arm. They can touch their forearm, they can touch this arm, it's up to the teacher where they feel comfortable being touched. And the child, sometimes the younger ones, this from personal experience, sometimes the younger ones want to hold on to you until you give them their attention. I let them do this because eventually they watch the older ones interrupt and they notice all they have to do is a tap. And I acknowledge them. I let the younger ones hold on to me, 2.5-year-olds, 3-year-olds. That's okay, And then I acknowledge them as soon as I'm done having my conversation. Excuse me. I acknowledge them once I feel the touch with a glance. And then I turn to them as soon as I'm done having my conversation. And you teach them to do this with their peers as well. It's really beautiful to watch. I love grace and courtesy. Those of you who watch my videos know I'm constantly promoting grace and courtesy. It's so important. And then we have, let's see. Oh, here's blowing one's nose. You want to teach them how to blow their nose. And then section 6, advanced movement, walking on the line. So the children start walking on the line. In Montessori classrooms, you're going to see tape on the floor in the shape of an ellipse. And I actually gave the children the tape and let them make their own shapes. We did that one time in the classroom, and they absolutely loved it, and they practiced walking on all the different shapes. But in most Montessori classrooms, you're going to see walking on the line, and it will more than likely be in the shape of a circle or an ellipse in the circle area where it's large enough for all of the children to sit together. And they can practice walking on the line in the morning when they come into the classroom prior to sitting in circle. They can practice walking on the line before circle. They can practice walking on the line after circle. They can practice walking on the line prior to going to the playground, prior to lunch. I incorporated walking on the line several times a day because it's great for their balance. It builds their concentration. It builds their large motor skills, and it helps with their posture, and they absolutely love it. So we start with, for instance, carrying a book. So simply carrying a book and walking on the line. They can do heel toe. It's harder for the 2.5 to 3.5-year-olds to do heel toe. So they can simply walk on the line and they just watch themselves, and they're practicing balancing without carrying anything more often than not. And then it gradually becomes more challenging. So they can start by carrying a book, then they can carry a tray. They can go straight to carrying a tray if they want to, because it's very simple, similar to carrying a book. And then they add things to their tray. They can have a glass of water on their tray, practice carrying that. If they spill it, they know how to clean it up. You give them a lesson on how to clean it up. If they're not hurting themselves or hurting someone else or damaging the materials in the classroom, you do your best not to interrupt. So let's say they're walking on the line and they are carrying, they could carry a tray with a glass of rice, for instance, in it. The water is nice because they can see the water line move, and then they can focus on trying to walk as carefully as possible so that you keep that water line still. The children will come up with their own ideas for different things that they can walk on the line with. And one of the most advanced lessons is they'll walk on the line with a book on their head. And this is where it aids in their posture so much. And they'll add a book to that book, and they have beautiful posture. Before you know it, they're carrying a tray with a glass of water and 2 books on their head. I've seen it done. It's really cute. So then, this one's a good one. So you'll notice if you look in the Montessori community these days, if you look in, traditional education community as well, mindfulness is becoming more and more prevalent, which is so wonderful because it helps the children control their bodies. It helps the children learn about meditation and the power of being able to mindfully consider different situations. It helps with their impulsivities, and it's just beautiful. So since the for many decades now, Montessori has been practicing the silence game. And so in the silence game, we start with a moment of silence, which is 60 seconds. And you have all the children sitting in a circle. You can give this as a one-on-one lesson. I had a consultant come and evaluate me from the AMI community, and she discouraged circle time because she said you wanted as much flow taking place in the classroom as often as possible. So in order to achieve that, you would not have circle time. You would allow the children to choose their own work, and they may or may not participate in circle time. But I would just go, for instance, I did yoga every morning during circle time. And she encouraged me to go to a corner of the room and start doing yoga instead of having such a long circle time, and allowing the children to choose whether or not they want to participate in it. So I noticed that my classroom did normalize faster once I was allowing the children to choose their work more often instead of choosing work for them, which is kind of what circle time is you're choosing their activity. You're controlling the flow of circle time. And so you want the children to choose their own flow. So you have the moment of silence, and then you'll notice as the year progresses, as you know, a month progresses throughout the year, you can go from 1 minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes to 4 minutes. We got to 10 minutes. The children were sitting beautifully. Even the 2-year-olds were sitting beautifully in circle time for 10 minutes, practicing that time of mindfulness and meditation, and just paying attention to their bodies. Some of the children will interrupt. Some of the children struggle. Obviously, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Some children struggle more than others. However, they are all focused usually, and they all have this inner desire to please you and to please their friends. And so you ignore the interruptions and you simply sit as quietly as you can. It's wonderful for us as teachers too to take that time out to focus on our monkey brains and find some peace. It helps with behavior issues in the classroom because when the children are done, they're just much more peaceful and harmonious and connected with themselves and their environment, and it's really beautiful to watch. And so that sums up Practical Life in the AMI community. This is a 22-minute video. Wow. Please feel free to ask a Montessorian. Please feel free to ask me any questions about Practical Life or any other areas of the 3 to 6 or 6 to 12 classrooms that you have questions on. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And as my son likes to remind me, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe for more videos on Montessori. I hope you guys all have a tremendous day, a wonderful time working with your children. And once again, thank you for joining me.